welcome to our panel. Today we are going to talk about what works in the Web3 marketing, and here we have probably one of the most relevant people in the industry. So let's start with the basics. You might be shocked, but the first question would be, how would you describe the key differences between Web2 and Web3 marketing? We are in the minority, so this is why we start with this question, describing the key differences. So please, who wants to start?
I can start with about that. I would say that the biggest difference between Web2 and Web3 marketing is that the products that we're marketing in Web3 are a lot more complex, and there's a lot more unknown to general audiences, especially if we're trying to market to normies and get the mass adoption that we have been talking about for years and years now. So there's a requirement for marketers to understand the products that we're marketing on the high technical level so that we're able to translate that to everyday life. I would say that this is the biggest difference. And then, of course, we're using different tools. We're using tools for on-chain analysis and cross-referencing on-chain activity with off-chain customer profiles to be able to, to market better. But at the end of the day, marketing is marketing. The foundation is the same. We are still working with people, and we need to figure out what makes a person tick. So the foundation we already have. We just need to figure out how to translate complex Web3 tech to everyday lingo.
And if I can add on to this, obviously, as you said, there are a lot of similarities, but another big difference, I guess, would be the platforms that we use, because in Web2 marketing, we rely a lot on centralized platforms to provide us with the data, to provide us with the audience. So we use Google, we use the Meta Suite to see who the potential users might be, and then we target those. But in Web3, it's a lot of decentralized, right? So we have to find our communities on Twitter, we have to find them on X, on Telegram, and there's not really a third party that is going to give us access to them. And it's not like a one-way communication where we just market to them. It's more of an interaction and keeping this constant interaction between the community and the product.
Yeah, I mean, I can add user acquisition cost. Maybe that's a main difference. And then, of course, I think that in Web3, it's really more difficult to find the real active user. We are talking about real active and spending user. The user acquisition costs change a lot. But yeah, I totally agree that the basics are there, like marketing is marketing. Then, of course, the job of the marketer is to know all the touch points where your customer are. And actually, we just mentioned that. So yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, and also one more thing is the regulation, right? Because regulation is very tricky in Web3. You cannot just market the same thing everywhere. Like, you need to understand in which country it's allowed to promote the token, in which country it is not, and what sanctions you're exposing yourself to if you do. So yeah, this is definitely a very, very tricky one.
Yeah, actually with Meta, you need to know how to promote it. If they are going to allow to promote it in Europe, you need to check every single regulation. So yeah, the legal aspect is madness, I mean.
Yeah, we literally had this project that told us, okay, we're going to do an airdrop, but we're based in Liechtenstein, so let's not use the word airdrop, but we're going to do an airdrop, but please don't use this, okay? Please don't use any Web3 terminology related to token. And it's a funny space.
I can actually agree on the don't use any Web3 terminology. The consumers are confused enough as they are. So, you can just use something else. Like it's time that we came with a better term for airdrops anyway. Like, I don't know, airborne reward distribution or something.
Yeah, like that's the main thing, that Web2, traditional marketing, it has its pillars, like it has its methods. And then Web3 marketing is something new. So like there is no foundation. So we are basically now making a foundation, and we have many limitations when it comes to promotion, because different countries, they have different rules when it comes to crypto. And then when it comes to promotion of crypto, there are certain guidelines that we need to follow. So there are many challenges that we are facing. But now when we are mentioning core pillars and Web3 strategies, in your experience, what would be the core pillars of successful Web3 marketing strategies? If you have some good case practices from your experience, please share it with us.
I mean, we still have our pillars today. We have community building. We've got X or Twitter. I would never be able to call it X, but you know.
Common thing, I mean, Vanina, no worries.
It will forever be Twitter for me. But we've got that. We've got, you know, obviously we've got social media. We've got paid growth. We've got our KOLs. So there are different pillars. And the one thing that I am quite happy to notice is that there's a lot more variety for us in terms of platforms and touch point locations that we can choose from, and select the right marketing mix for each particular client, whether it's a token or a more technologically focused client.
I just want to come back on something that you said. You talked about the community. Community, I think, is the main pillar in Web3 marketing, right? You have to be able to leverage, invest and reinvest in your community, because community is not just here to buy your product once and then go. They're here to actually, if you do it well, they can self-market your product. Community can also contribute because they have different skills that they can bring to the project. They can help develop the projects, they can help market the project, they can help invest in the project, find investors. Like, community is really very essential, and as such, you need to invest in them through smart tokenomics, but also in education, organizing events, bringing the community together, having a sense of shared identity, shared values. Education can be workshops, but also AMAs, it can be podcast participation, because we're in a space where a lot of the things that we do are very technical, very not so intuitive, and not all of us have a very strong tech background. So yeah, I think education is a very important pillar too.
Yeah, I also want to mention that, I mean, I always suggest to focus on the product, because sometimes, you know, we cannot market everything, you know, the product has to be good. So back in the days before joining Bybit, when I was fully focused on Web3 marketing, my first feedback was, okay, have you worked on this product? Will you use your product? And let's try to understand that, because this is the first point, because there is this myth that in Web3 you can just raise money with an MVP or a small idea, but yeah, that's not the thing. I mean, if you just want to pump a token and then do the exit liquidity, okay, you can, but that's not the case if you have a product that it's gonna be stay there for a long time. Then, of course, community is the key, because we are talking about a market that is populated just by early adopters. So if you are looking at the adoption curve of a product, early adopter in Web2 space, in the traditional space, have a certain role. In Web3, the role is totally different, because we are talking about a niche. We are talking about mass adoption and stuff, but we are still on a niche. So the early adopters right now are the base of our community, but are also the people where we are gonna do the retention. So yeah, community is key, and we need to focus on that.
But that's the thing that I kind of wanted to touch upon, especially when we're talking about community building and retention. The one thing that we have been seeing over and over again, because the industry is so nascent, it's so young, we don't have the levels of loyalty that we see in many different industries in Web2. And to me personally, one of the reasons for that is that there's a new hot kit on the street every other week. We have a new hot DeFi protocol, or a new platform, a hot new L2, if you wish. And people jump from one thing to the other, driven by FOMO very often. So we don't really get the chance to establish that long-term sustainable brand loyalty or product loyalty, which would make retention much, much easier. So that said, I would say that building a community in Web3 and working on that retention takes a little bit more effort than in any other industry.
And to add on to what you're saying about building a loyal user base, I think that's something that's very important to do for the teams, is to actually take into consideration, like involve the community in the product. So basically be able to iterate fast, to gather the feedback from the community, let them have a say and let them contribute to the product. This is super important in order to help making the community feel a part of the project and build this loyalty. Yeah, the good feedback loop and a good collaboration between the product team and marketing team and BD team.
Yeah, and from my experience, I saw many companies who are forcing Web3, like, you don't need to be in the Web3, like, it's not obligatory, so So it's okay, like if you stay in the Web2, if your business doesn't require Web3 marketing. But you have mentioned very important pillar, which is community building. So we will talk about community building, but before that, like there are many discussions now about social media in the Web3, Twitter or LinkedIn. So what are your hot takes on this?
I don't really have a hot take on that, and I think that both platforms could be very, very useful. Both Twitter and LinkedIn have their audiences, and it all depends about where your product or your services audience is, what type of people they are. We have been seeing a lot of success with both Twitter and LinkedIn when selecting the right platform for the right client, the right product. It would depend, like generally you can, I think you can still say that there's a lot of B2B communication and primarily B2B communication happening on LinkedIn. But at the end of the day, if you think about it, who are the people who are on LinkedIn? Yeah, they're in their professional capacity, but these are the same people who are going to finish their workday and then switch to Twitter and be there as well. So we kind of need to find a way to find the right balance. There are products where LinkedIn is completely useless. If you're marketing a meme coin, I don't think you would find your people on LinkedIn unless you do like a really funny campaign mocking the most of LinkedIn. But I would say that both platforms have their merits. The other thing that I've noticed is that if you excuse my language, the LinkedIn algorithm used to be shit just a couple of years ago, but they've really been working on that and really improving it. So I think that both platforms can be very beneficial.
That's a perfect explanation. My thoughts exactly. Stella or Michele?
I mean, we cannot disagree with what Vanina just said. It really depends on which is your business model. If you're a B2B company, of course, you're going more on LinkedIn than on Twitter. If you're a meme coin, you're going on Twitter. Then, well, I'm a LinkedIn guy, you know me.
Me too.
But yeah, then, and also because I love to avoid bots. In LinkedIn, it's really easier to avoid bots. And bots are a thing in the crypto industry. So we're trying to skip the part. We saw it with tap projects right now, or with a lot of meme coins. But yeah, I think that Vanina was more than exhaustive on this answer.
So if you are funny, really funny, then go to Twitter. Stella?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, they pretty much said everything. The social media that allow the best interaction with the users, Telegram, Discord, Twitter are obviously the biggest one in Web3 and the most important ones to leverage for anything that you need from your community. But LinkedIn is also very important. If you're targeting institutions, perhaps you're not gonna go on Telegram, right? So yeah, I think it's pretty much a no-brainer.
Yes, so Telegram, Twitter, LinkedIn, these are part of building Web3 communities. And while we are mentioning like community building, but how to build that community, like what are concrete steps in that process, like how to?
I mean, I just want to say, of course, like we have the social media that we can leverage, and this is super important, especially because we're a small community, the Web3 community. We're all around the world, so it might not always be possible to find your people in your city, but events are a huge part of community building, right? And I think that's something that the Ethereum Foundation really did amazingly from the beginning. They understood that investing in events and investing in your community members that want to organize events all around the world is a very smart approach, because then people come together, they exchange ideas, they have a sense of identity, like I said before, which is extremely important. They share their values, and yeah, it's very fundamental in building trust to be able to see each other, to interact with each other in real life as well. So events are a very big part of community building, I would say.
Maybe one of the biggest.
I completely agree with that, but then kind of like a sideway observation that I have about community building is that a lot of companies and a lot of projects focus too much on how to bring people into the community, how to grow the numbers, how to have those vanity metrics and, pump up the Telegram members on a group or Twitter followers. And what we should be focusing on instead is how to retain that community. Because we see a huge number of communities that have a large number of people in them, and then the engagement rate is incredibly low. These are not engaged communities. I like to call them dormant communities. It's not just enough to bring the people in. You need to give them a hook to stay engaged. You need to give them a reason to participate in that community actively and to nurture them into becoming your brand ambassador inadvertently. So I think that this is something that has been overlooked for a very long time, and this is something that we should really pay a little bit more attention to and kind of like put a lot more effort into not just bringing the people in, but keeping them in and keeping them engaged, giving them the things that they want in order to become, really loyal members of that community. And we've seen that done successfully with multiple communities, not all of them, unfortunately, just a handful of them. But those communities are the places where people feel heard. These are the places where people feel that they get back from the project or the service that they're committing their time to. As Stella said, real life events and meetups and even virtual events are a big part of that. But also, again, the feedback loops that I mentioned earlier. It's really important to kind of like let the community know that they have been heard, and let them see that their feedback is implemented when that's reasonable feedback. Because, we've all seen ridiculous requests from people in communities, and, we still need to work based on the data when working on features and product development. But at the end of the day, I think that, it's important to give back to your communities and reciprocate what you want to get out of a community.
Yeah, so Stella mentioned, I think that live events are key, like small meetups. We saw last year, Farcaster, how many meetups they have organized in Europe and in the whole world.
A lot.
And if you go to one of these events, you can see how bonded the community is. They know each other, even if they are from other countries, So that is an amazing example. Then, of course, we have projects that maybe doesn't have raised so much. They are in a kickstarting phase, so they are not able to do this. But for example, on Discord, you can create a lot of engagement. You can use the social platform that we are using in the Web3 space. On top of that, actually, I really love the observations of Vanina about pumping numbers, because, we were discussing this with Tom Foundation really recently in Naples, and we were like, how projects are trying to pump the numbers, and it's like an organic growth, that is getting better and better, because back in the days, projects was going to airdrops.io, okay, some social tasks, and then 0 active users on chain. And that was the first thing, just to hunt an airdrop. Then we had Galaxy, Quest10, Interact, all this Web3 engagement platform. But if at the start they were working, then we saw bots. And again, they fucked up the situation. And then we saw exchanges trying to do that, Binance with the mega drop, us with the Web3 airdrop arcade. And the logical consecution was mini apps. Right now we have more than 200 studios that are developing mini apps. Then, of course, we discussed about this, and then there is a filtering about all these users, but the mini app, in my opinion, is really interesting. At the end of the day, we are seeing that all these tap-tap projects then are gonna be listed on the exchange, and the claim of the airdrop is on the exchange, and that's why. Actually, to verify the users, because they have to do the KYC in order to claim the airdrop. So all the tokens that are unclaimed, you can spend it in marketing, or burn them to just skyrocket the token. But yeah, it's really interesting, and I'm really curious on how it's evolving. Actually, right now we have 200 studios that are working on mini apps on Telegram for crypto projects. It's really interesting to see how these strategies are growing and how we're modifying them.
Yeah, and I want to go back also to something you said. You talked about the dormant communities and these projects that have huge numbers of members on Telegram or huge amount of followers on Twitter, but in the end, they're not very engaged. I think it's kind of a challenge that the projects are facing, because on one hand, okay, they would love to have these active users, but on the other hand, they also have some kind of pressure from sometimes the VCs, from sometimes, because they need to have these numbers in order to receive investments. They need to be showing that there's traction. So sometimes they're kind of in this dilemma, like having to choose between very fast growth that is not really necessarily the most organic, or taking maybe longer steps towards building sustainable and organic and active audiences. I think it's really hard to strike a balance there.
I agree with you, but that brings me to another topic, and that's the role of the community manager, which is, in my opinion, one of the most misunderstood roles in the entirety of Web3. Because a lot of people consider the community manager and community builder nothing more than a chat moderator. That's not what we need. We need community management who not only come from a background in Web3, but also understand marketing, and they understand how people tick and what keeps people engaged. So I think that we, as an industry, and especially the smaller subset of Web3 marketers, we should be investing a lot more people creating successful community managers.
But now when you have mentioned this, so we all know that Web3 space is growing on a daily basis. And we have like more and more conferences, and then we have more and more community builders, influencers, KOLs, etc. So what do you think that are like unique challenges of Web3 marketing and community building? Because while Web3 space is growing, it's still not that big. So we see like the same companies and the same people and sometimes the same conferences. So what would be unique challenges in community building within the space that's growing, but it's still not that big to have so many competitors and competitive faces and brands?
Well, one of the biggest challenges that I already talked about that is the lack of loyalty. There's a new hot thing, a new hot project or service coming up every day. So that's one of the biggest challenges. We kind of like need to understand that there will be something new coming up as consumers, I mean. But if you find something that you like and, is doing the job for you, why not stick to it? That's the one thing. The other thing that I see as a major issue is there's still quite a lot of fragmentation on the market that is very small. And, we are competing for the same, for a share of the same pie. And the pie is not really growing as fast as we want it. It's in the oven, but it's not expanding as fast as we want it to expand, if you excuse my bad metaphor. But I think that with more new people that we bring into the industry, and that's a very slow and painful process, but it is a process. It is underway already. So I think that, bringing more and more people into the space will kind of help us solve that. But yeah, I know it sounds a little bit, counterintuitive, but I think we need a little bit more centralization when it comes to the subsets of products and services that we offer to people.
I mean, we are doing a great job. A lot of people are joining, like in the industry, we are seeing a lot of new acquisitions in Web3. I mean, Jason Derulo is launching a crypto token, so we see that something is happening. Then, of course, I remember a tweet back in the days from Satoshi Seeker that was like, okay, when Coinbase is the most downloaded app on the App Store, just dump all your bags because it means that all the retailers have scam. But yeah, actually, I think that in terms of adoptions of new users, we are doing a great job. And we can see it, even this one is the first event that Bulgaria is having for crypto, for the Ethereum space or for cryptocurrencies, for Web3. So yeah, again, we're doing a great job. Then I think that we also need to think of, which is the challenge that we are facing with the project that we are working with. If I'm a DeFi project, I don't care about onboarding Web2 users. I want DeFi degen, like if I need liquidity, I need liquidity. If I'm a lending and borrowing project, I don't care about onboarding Web2 users. I just want to bring users that are, I don't know, farming on or doing lending and borrowing on other chains to mine and to my protocol. So yeah, it really depends, but I think that the main challenge is to find the right audience and go to steal them to the other protocols. That is basically the thing.
Stella, you think that they covered all the challenges?
Yeah, I think that they covered the main challenges, honestly.
Okay, great. And okay, we covered the challenges, but then we see like so many trends nowadays, not only in the crypto space, but generally. So what do you think, like which trends are going to shape the future of crypto and blockchain and Web3 in general? And which trends do you like? And what are the trends that maybe you are not the biggest fan of?
You mean in terms of narratives or in terms of marketing or
General trends, yeah, like that will shape the future of Web3 marketing.
Okay, so I think a very big one that I personally would love to get more education upon is the role of AI in marketing, because obviously AI can help us be more effective now in the way that we target our audience and in the way we analyze also the efficiency of the campaigns. But AI can also be quite an interesting tool coupled with blockchain, because we can then tackle a very big problem that people have with marketing is privacy, because people wouldn't mind helping us do better marketing campaigns, but they don't really like to have us stealing their data and using it against them. So perhaps with AI and blockchain, we can have more privacy-centric type of marketing. And that's something that I'm personally excited about. So yeah, a trend that I would hope to see grow.
One of the trends that I am excited about, Michele already mentioned, the mini apps. And I've seen some really, really interesting use cases in the past couple of weeks of mini apps. On a larger scale, one thing that I am curious to see how unfolds is the narrative around layer twos. There's a big tectonic move right now in all of the L2s, and a lot of them are trying to kind of like rebrand and reposition themselves on the market. So I'm curious to see if that effort to consolidate in super chains and, larger groups of L2s is going to continue and how that's going to progress in the near future. But yeah, that's the one trend that I'm very curious, cautiously optimistic as well, to kind of like see how it plays out.
Yeah, so if we are talking about the crypto industry itself, the major trends that I see are AI, of course, the PIN, real-world asset tokenization. But if you are talking instead of the adoption of blockchain in the traditional industry, I think in the near future, we will see all the loyalty points move to blockchain, because if we can make loyalty points, if we can create an interoperability between them, it will be amazing. Let's say that I'm going to buy the grocery, and then with the same points, I can use them to have a discount on my next flight. That will be fucking huge. And I mean, that will be one thing. And of course, insurances, because if we can cut all the human part that for insurance company costs a lot. I love to use the example of AXA. They develop this insurance where basically, if you are having a delay that is more than, 30 minutes, 1 hour on your flight, you can get your money back. Back in the days, they were doing it with manually, basically, in the old traditional way, where basically, if your flights were late, you had to compile a request, you had to go to a physical person that were checking your demand and were checking if actually the flight was in delay. And there is also the human error in place there, because the person that is in charge of checking the request can also get it wrong. And instead, right now, what they are doing is that just connecting an oracle to a DLT and just saying, okay, if the plane is late of 31 minutes, a smart contract will immediately reimburse it. And we also know why. So in terms of efficiency, this thing is amazing. They cut like 90% of the costs, and the product is much better. Or for example, even in insurances, the example of PhotoCert, the application that Generali is already using. If you are having an accident with your car, you can take a picture through PhotoCert and you have a timestamp on that picture. You know that picture is not mutable, so nobody can fraud you as an insurance. So you are also saving money. So yeah, in terms of, I think that those two are my favorites. Let's say insurances and loyalty points for what regarding blockchain adoptions in the traditional market.
And I think that there's a lot of missed opportunity in the loyalty point space right now. we're not really like, I mean, I know that we started out with loyalty points and then moved to tokens, and now we're tokenizing points. So, you know, it's kind of a funny series of events. But I think that there's a lot of opportunities, and that would be a really good a really good way to bring in a lot more Web2 businesses who already have existing successful loyalty programs, and they're kind of like looking for a way to add additional value for their users. So, for example, consolidating points from different programs and being able to exchange those points for a gift card using crypto or just for crypto on its own would be an interesting use case for that. So there's a lot of, I think we're going to see a lot more development in that space as well.
Yeah, so all three of you shared like very important information about these trends and challenges, etc. So how do you get this information? Like, how do you stay informed about trends and everything?
How much time do we have?
The million dollar question. The million dollar question. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but
I will explain what's like the logic behind this question, but first let us know like how do you stay informed and everything? Like where do you get all the info?
I spend a great chunk of my life on crypto Twitter, so you know, that is still a major channel for me.
Okay, one of the ways.
There's a lot, I also sit on a bunch of specialized Telegram groups where people are kind of like openly, freely exchanging information. At Serotonin, we have quite a large team, and we are very, very big on information and knowledge sharing. So we do have like different work groups. We would sometimes just hop on a call with a colleague because we saw something very, very interesting and we want to like dive deeper into it and, you know, kind of like get everybody's opinion on that. So kind of like the one thing that I've found out in all of the years that I have been doing Web3 marketing is that you cannot always know everything. There will be things that you will miss because there's so much going on. It's such a dynamic industry. But if you just kind of like, you know, keep an open mind and talk to people and listen to people and what they have to say, sometimes you can spot trends early. Sometimes you can learn something that can lead you to another idea. And then the important thing is to remember to take a little break from Twitter sometimes and to stay hydrated.
Thank you.
I think I'll answer also for you probably, but very simply, I'm a business developer. And when you do BD, you just spend your time talking to people, right? So you have, I don't know, like 5, 10, 15 calls a day with different projects that all have different ideas. So basically, they help you stay updated, I would say. And also working in the media relations, you also are at this forefront. You talk to the journalists, you see what's trending quite fast. So yeah, very simply.
Yeah, actually, I totally agree. As a business developer, you know, we are always in touch with different.
You know everything.
We are all around, and so
you must know everything.
Yeah.
we get a lot of news. On top of that, I can tell you that for what regarding the adoption of blockchain itself, one of my suggestions is go to the Big Four, read the fucking report, and I mean, that is what they are going to suggest to the biggest industry. So if they are saying that loyalty points will be a thing, in 3 years, they are going to suggest loyalty points. And we know it's going to be a thing. If they are going to suggest something else, you know that they are going to suggest it to the bigger industries. And you know, sounds stupid, but it makes sense. So definitely that's a point, a suggestion that I can give. And then, of course, some Telegram niche chats. I mean, if you are in the right group, you can get really good informations. And then, yeah, talking with people, talking with the software development houses and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, that's great, actually. I hope you are taking notes. But Stella, you gave me a great overture to the main reason for my question, and that was like, what would be the role of media then in the crypto space? Because I come from the crypto media company, actually, and our main job is to cover like different conferences and communities, to build communities like via Telegram, via Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. But to me, it seems that crypto media is not covering that much as it should. So what would be your take on this? Like, what should be the main role of media in the space?
Yeah, so I'm actually really happy to answer this because that's something that I try to speak with the project about on a daily basis. Because of course we do have these decentralized means of communication where you get to interaction with the community. We have the Telegram, we have the Twitter. But what role media plays in this? Very simply, trust. Right? If you want to convince projects, if you want to convince the VCs that, you know, that you're not some kind of shady business, one more shady business in crypto, you're going to want to have a strong media presence, right? So if you have an article or a commentary on Forbes, TechCrunch, if you have feature articles in CoinDesk, interviews with the biggest journalists, of course, it's going to give you very big credibility and trust. So that's very important. Another role is education, because through AMAs, through podcasts, you can actually help your audience have a more digestible understanding of what you do, especially if you do something that is very technical. So yeah, I would say these two mainly. Then you also have the possibility to target many different niches, many different geos. If you're going to be launching a project in Southeast Asia, do you know how to target Southeast Asia? Perhaps you want to start with building trust there, right? So you're going to be targeting the media from there. And if you want to have developers, if you want to have investors, if you want, like, you're going to have different channels based on your goal, I would say. And also in case of crisis, as it can happen so often in crypto, you need to fix your media presence. So media is very important, guys.
Get a crisis management plan, please.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Stella.
Crisis? I don't know what you're talking about. Like, we've never seen a crisis in crypto. Something interesting that I wanted to mention here is that, I mean, in my personal opinion, I think that crypto media is doing quite well, and mainstream media is doing quite well covering crypto as well. Like, they have journalists who are very competent, and then kind of like go and dig deep. The one thing that I have noticed as an interesting phenomenon, and I don't know if it only works on a specific market, but what they do in China, for example, is quite curious. They have, instead of having like in-depth interviews and instead of having like, you know, featured articles and all of that, they have those news flashes where they just give you a little, like literally a piece of news in the form of a tweet. And then this way, what they're doing is they're covering, as you said, they're covering so much more, and they're basically able to cover everything that is happening throughout the day. Based on statistics afterwards and, you know, interest from readers, they are then able to determine what should stay in the limelight a little bit longer and what they should cover more extensively. So I think that this is something that we can, you know, that Western media can borrow from Asia.
Yeah, and also, Lejla, don't underestimate yourself. I mean, BeinCrypto is doing an amazing job. We have a ton of subdomains. How many subdomains do you have right now on BeinCrypto? I mean,
we have a lot users.
Yeah, not just users, but subdomains in different languages. I mean, you're covering a lot.
Yeah, but it's only like 3 or 4 crypto media companies. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it should be like 20, not 3 or 4. That's not enough. Yeah.
That's also true, but I also think that we have a really good geolocalized media partners. For example, in Italy, I'm from Italy actually, I'm working with a journal that is called cryptovaluta.it, and they are covering a lot of news. They have an amazing Telegram channel. And what that I love about crypto media is that they are trying to create the community themselves, because every time you're seeing that they also have a Telegram channel. I challenge you guys to enter in the Polish group of BeinCrypto, and you will see how much activity you can see there.
Yeah, they also have podcasts as well.
Yeah,
because I'm sitting on everyone's head.
And on top of that, one other thing that I really love about the media itself in the crypto industry, that we are seeing this rise of crypto journalists, also like, for example, Coinzilla, all these, I don't know how to translate it, but like aggressive journalism where I'm doing these investigations and stuff. So Coinzilla, first of all, but we're seeing a lot of them that they are raising in these days. I recently saw a video from Hands on Finance about all the Polkadot case and how they brutally spend money on Twitter creators with no results. Like, it's super fun. It's super fun, and the industry is growing, I mean.
Yeah, and I want to say also that if you want to be as relevant as possible, you need to have as many touch points as possible with your audience. So obviously interaction on X, on Discord, on Telegram, but also through media and influencers. And you can even play with the different formats. So you can start with like teasing with KOLs. So the KOLs are like, oh, what's coming? And then bam, media break. And then the influencers use this. So the media provides credibility, and then the influencers will go on and spread the message. That's something that we really love to do in our campaigns, like mixed campaigns.
Yeah, perfect. And if you don't know what to do, like you can become a KOL and I'm just kidding, of course. And just to wrap up this Web3 discussion, what would be your suggestion to people who are just getting started with their careers in the Web3 marketing in one sentence?
Run. No, just kidding.
Work.
Just kidding. It's a little bit stressful, I mean, but first of all, fall in love with the industry. That's the easiest part. Like,
It's not easy. Not
no,
literally.
it's not the easiest part, but it makes your job easier. I mean, if you love what you're doing and if you love the industry, it's really easier. And of course, you have also the continuous learning thing, because in this industry, you cannot just study one time at the university, because also you don't have university courses about blockchain because it's such a renewing market. And if you don't do continuous learning, you will be trumped by someone else. So this is my first suggestion. So keep improve yourself every time. And yeah, I mean, just jump in. I mean, it's a good industry. You will see, you will have fun.
Thank you, Michele. Stella?
Yeah, fun for sure. And sleepless nights too. No, but I would say find a project that you're passionate about, join the community, and just try things. Just start stuff and show initiative, and most likely the project will notice you and will want you to have a more active role in the project itself. Go to events, meet with people, and just see what you can bring. All your most creative, most degen, most insane ideas. Web3 is the place for it. So
Beautiful, Stella. Thank you. Vanina?
My advice, especially to newcomers in the space, would be become as crypto native as you can be, as quickly as you can be. The more you use the products of blockchain and Web3, the more ideas and creativity you're going to have when it comes to marketing other products. Be competent, be prepared for the learning curve. You can either run away from crypto or you can run with it. And both are valid choices. I would not run away because I can't imagine going to anything slower than Web3. But just be prepared to keep on learning, experiment, try and put even the dumbest idea that you have, put it to reality, test it, measure it, see if it works, and if it does, replicate it.
Thank you so much.